I want to thank the Noble Foundation for the opportunity to be here today and give you a little bit of a beef checkoff update. See if I know how to run this. And based upon the topics that you asked me to speak about, I said we could call this the good, the bad, and the ugly. But it's beyond me to start a presentation and end it with the ugly. So we're going to start with the bad and the ugly, and we're going to end with the good, and what I like to think of as the outstanding. I really hate having the bad. One of the topics he asked me to speak about was beef checkoff resources and the fact that we have declining purchasing power with the beef checkoff. The beef checkoff started in 1985, and so it's remained the same, $1 per head for the last 25 years. But if we look at everything from gasoline to ground beef, those prices have increased significantly. So as checkoff, and this is another slide just to kind of show you how the checkoff collections look relative to inflation. And as you can see, they've been on a declining rate for the last several years, plus the fact that we have a declining cow herd at the same time. So we've been kind of hit twice here. But I want to let you know that as these checkoff expenses have decreased, and the revenues have not, the producer leaders who serve on the Cattlemen's Beef Board, that serve on our state beef councils, that serve as federation directors, which are our representatives from the state beef councils that serve on a national level, they've worked very hard to diligently spend those beef checkoff dollars as efficiently as possible. And I think it's important to note that because of a comprehensive econometric model that was done, they've been able to show that for every beef checkoff dollar invested by cattlemen, the return is $5.55. So just kind of as a bottom line, the beef checkoff has remained the same. It's still $1 per head. The value of that dollar, the purchasing power of that dollar is about 47 cents, 47% of what it was in 1985. And I would also share with you that from an advertising perspective, you know, I've had people ask, why aren't we still in television? Well, the bottom line is, we have our purchasing power as it relates to advertising is about 25% of what it was in 1985. So as you can see, this is a pretty big challenge. Obviously, our administrative costs, the same way your expenses on the farm and ranch have gone up. And then I always say it kind of feels a little like we've got anti-meat factions out there that don't like what we do. And we're fighting them and they have exponentially larger budgets than what we do. So it's been a challenge. I'm really focusing on achieving that goal with the beef checkoff of increasing beef demand, and these days I say protecting beef demand. But I will let you know that, you know, it's one of the things I say, it's been a challenge. But I said we used to think, well, we don't want to take a shotgun approach. We want to take a rifle approach. And these days, folks, we're having to take a laser approach to the way we decide what projects are going to fund. The bottom line is we have to work together. We have to work together to move forward in this current environment. So let's talk about the ugly. You also asked me to speak about this. How many of you guys have heard of finely textured beef? Okay, did everybody raise their hand that's heard about it? Okay, how many people have heard of pink slime? Yeah, that's what I thought. More people have heard of pink slime than finely textured beef, which is what this product is. It's 100% beef. I'm just going to explain this process because we've been dealing with this the last month. Finely textured beef, BPI is the largest company that does it. There's two companies that do this process. The largest is BPI. The second one is Cargill. BPI does about 75% of the finely textured beef produced in the United States prior to March 2nd, or I think March 7th was done by BPI. Essentially what they do is they take trimmings, and then they're able to heat them up to about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. They put it through a centrifuge. They're able to separate the beef from the fat. They create a product that's about 97% lean ground beef, and it's 100% ground beef. I was reading a commentary by an industry writer, and he said, well, you know, we've done all these things. Is it still beef? And I'm like, well, if you put a steak on the grill, you cook it, take the steak off the grill, I think it's still beef. So this is a process in which we're able to create a very, very fine, very lean product that's 97% lean. They also, and this is a BPI process, also use a gas, ammonia hydroxide gas, a food grade level. This process has been approved since 1974. It acts as a microbial in the process, and so it creates an even safer product for consumers. So this is a great process. However, what happened out of that, we had a network news program, ABC, that decided this needed to be a big issue. I'll be blunt, after working for the Beef Checkoff for 15 years, I've never seen an issue covered like this, especially something that should not be an issue. However, there's one thing I've learned over time is that if consumers will take on risks when they know what the risk is, but if they thought there was something they didn't know about, and in this process they feel like there was something they didn't understand, they didn't know, I think some of them felt like we're putting something one over on them. But I think a lot of people don't understand how any of these food processes are done. I'll give you a factoid. There's 4 times the amount of ammonia hydroxide in tofu than there is in lean, finely textured beef. So this has been a very challenging issue to deal with. One of the things that we'd hope would happen is that this would be covered for a couple of nights. We don't want to make a local story of it. That's one of our goals sometimes when there's a local, national story that goes. We don't want to make a local story of it. That's not what happened here. We didn't really have, I'll be blunt, in the last month we've had 1 media call on this issue, so it hasn't become a local story, but it's definitely been a national story. Social media was also another element that came into play that made this extremely challenging. So one of our focuses from a state level was to really focus in on those key influencers, those key purchasing directors. So as we speak, the school lunchroom directors are going through their purchasing decisions for the rest of the year. So as part of our process, we developed a letter and a memo that we could send out to a wide variety of groups. It was authored, sent from Clay Bertram, who sits on our board as a secretary-treasurer of our board, but he's also a young father who has 3 kids, 3 young girls that are a part of the school lunch program. So we're able to draft a letter that helped provide that education, help let them know what this lean, finely textured beef is. We emailed it to key school nutrition directors. We mailed it to every school nutrition director. We were also able to reach out with Oklahoma Department of Agriculture's help, and we appreciated their help in reaching out with the state superintendent's office to also provide the same information to school administrators. We also emailed to the Oklahoma Grocers Association, and then we were able to get it in the Oklahoma Restaurant Association's newsletter to help provide that information. Our goal right now is to hope it's dying down. Our goal is to let this die down and then start finding the ways to gain traction so that we can do the long-term education. I think it's going to have to happen in this process. I should have also added that we also were able to reach out to key third-party experts, which resulted in a op-ed in the Daily Oklahoma, which we were very pleased about. So, and I can also share with you, this has been extensive efforts on a national level, but this has just been a very tough issue to deal with. Market impacts, just so you understand why this is such a large issue to us, this amounts to about, the equivalent product amounts to about 1.2 million head of cattle. So that tells you that it's a big, about 850 million. I've seen a couple of numbers. The one I think is most accurate is between 750 and 850 million pounds of product produced each year with lean, finely textured beef. We are going to see downward pressure on the trimming markets. We're already seeing that. 50% lean ground beef, which is basically half fat, half beef. And one of the processes that, one of the big supply would be the supply product that would be going into lean, finely textured beef. I looked at it and it's already gone down 40 cents a pound in the last 5 weeks. I do think we're going to see increased prices for the consumer at the meat case. I don't see how we cannot, because we don't produce enough lean in this country, so that's probably going to lead to increased imports of lean trimmings. Last up, it's not really good news, but we did have a research study, consumer study, that went into the market last week so we could kind of gauge how this is influencing the consumer. If we don't give them any hints, don't what we call is unaided awareness, and ask them what their concerns were about ground beef, it was still price and it was still nutrition. So that's something we think we can build upon. There's also seems to be some price sensitivity with consumers. So if we asked them, if we label this product, and if we labeled the product where it would say ground beef produced with, blended with lean, finely textured beef, everybody said they wouldn't buy it. I shouldn't say everybody, but a large majority said they wouldn't buy it, another percent said they didn't care, and I'm sorry those numbers are so new, I don't know them off the top of my head. But when you added a price differentiation to that equation, then they were, yeah, I think I'll be fine with that lean, finely textured beef if I have to pay $1 more a pound for it. So I think this is just going to be a long-term educational approach. I think we're still going to have lots of learnings coming out of this, so that we hope when something else might hit us in the industry, We're going to be looking at everything we're doing in the processing and how we produce beef to see what else they could find a way to twist, and how else what would be the next thing that they could find a way to bring it back on us. So it's not really a good story, but we are working on it, and it's going to take kind of a long-term approach to fix it. So let's talk about the outstanding. Let's talk about the good. I'm sorry I kind of had to be tell you the negative first, but we're going to end with the positive. I wanted to let you know we're going to be holding a series of field days around the state, somewhat similar to the field days we had last year. They will be hands-on. We're holding them at different locations. We're going to be looking back at the basics that can help have an impact on producers' bottom line. We're going to hear from veterinarians, livestock specialists, and livestock market owners. We find that livestock market owners add an extra additional component. But we're really looking to find what are those basics that you can do every day that can help add value to your animals. And I feel like a little like a NASCAR speaker, a NASCAR driver here, but I want to let you know that Prefert is going to be, Prefert and Shawnee Feeds is going to be providing a chute. So anybody that comes and participates, they will be entered to win a squeeze chute, compliments of Prefert and Shawnee, and then the meal will be provided by Novartis Animal Health. Next up is the BOLD diet research, and we are so excited about this research. It launched in the middle of December, and what this Checkoff, it was a Checkoff funded program. It's called BOLD, Beef and an Optimal Lean Diet, but it showed that eating lean beef every day could be good for heart health by actually improving cholesterol levels. This is a huge study for us. When I look at the research, the projects that we fund with the Beef Checkoff, and I look at the ones that have the most long-term impact for this industry, they all start with research. And that's why I believe so heartily in the research programs that we fund. But this was able to show positively. They took 4 different diets. They looked at the gold standard diet, and then they had the BOLD and the BOLD Plus diet. The BOLD Plus diet had people eating 5 to 7 ounces of beef, lean beef every day. And every single one of them, we were able to reduce the cholesterol compared to the gold study, which does not incorporate a lot of beef into that diet. In fact, on the BOLD Plus diet, which had 5 to 7 ounces of beef, they actually had lower blood pressure. So we were excited about those studies. What this is going to allow us to do is provide research that health professionals can use to update their dietary guidelines with scientific findings showing how lean beef can be a part of heart health. Since the release of this study, it launched in December through January 31st. It created 123 million positive impressions for beef. I would like to let you know we're going to be sharing this information widely with health nutritional professionals in Oklahoma and nationally. We were recently at the Oklahoma Dietetic Association, where we had one of the lead researchers on this project, Dr. Michael Russell, who also writes for Shape Magazine and Men's Fitness, and he was there speaking to the Oklahoma Dietetic Association, which is the largest group of human nutrition professionals. You see OKAFP, and that's the one I'm most thrilled about because it's the first time we've ever been able to get on the program at the Oklahoma Academy of Family Physicians. We feel like when people get that first recommendation, your cholesterol is high, you need to reduce it, don't eat red meat, comes at that physician's level, that family doctor. And so we have Dr. Russell coming out again to speak to this group. And this may not mean much, but it does. We will also be able to, we're counting some chickens here, but we're going to be able to, we believe we're going to be able to get continuing medical education credits for this program, which we think is exciting to be able to, I mean, guys, it's very hard for us to get in front of doctors like this, so we're thrilled about it. I want to give you just kind of a quick overview on some of our retail marketing success, just so you can see the scope of it. We work in partnerships. That's how we're able to stretch those dollars. So for every dollar we put into retail programs, in 2011, our cooperating partners invested $24.92. In 2011, more than 130 million purchase incentives were generated through Checkoff retail promotions in 2011, and this includes coupons and what we call FSIs, freestanding inserts. So think about when you get the Sunday paper and you have all those coupons, that's what that is, a freestanding insert. So these rebates and coupons saved consumers about $136 million on beef. Now, we didn't pay for that $136 million redemption. Other companies do. We just help really bring those groups together. We're like that catalyst for bringing those groups together so these promotions move forward. And then a total of 177.5 new beef recipes were showcased to consumers through newspapers, tear pads, and on-pack labels thanks to their Beef Checkoff. Next up is advertising. We've continued our profiles campaign into 2011, which focuses on helping consumers identify what those lean cuts of beef are. We know that lean, they want to have the permission to eat our product, they love our product, but we need to help show them what lean really resonates with that consumer. And so the profile campaign helps identify what those lean cuts are. Nationally, the campaign reached 87% of our target audience 7 times. Then in Oklahoma, we supported it further through radio and print media. One of the unsung heroes, I think, of the Beef Checkoff, because you don't see the Beef Check and you don't see funded by the Beef Checkoff on these programs, but is our food communications team, our food and nutrition health communications team, I should say. They work a lot to help get those insertions into those major magazines so that when you see a beef story in a magazine, it doesn't happen by accident. There's actually somebody behind it. So more than 2.6 billion positive impressions were created in a wide variety of magazines that consumers read every day. I just want to give you an example of this. I love this story. Our programs are highly integrated. So we have human nutrition research people working with our PR people working to get those positive stories in. But because of a human nutrition research project funded by your Beef Checkoff, focusing on the importance of protein and weight management, this story in men's fitness reaching more than 4.6 million readers was a positive result in the dissemination of these research programs. So we feel like this is a very positive example of your Beef Checkoff at work. I've got one more example and I'm almost done. Here is another example. Every year we have a program, I should say every other year we do a program where we bring in those food nutrition communicators. We really work to get at who are those people that are key opinion leaders, those key influencers. So we bring in those food nutrition communicators. So this would be an example of one of the individuals, I shouldn't say doctor, but Ellie Krieger. She is a Food Network star and a dietitian at the same time, and she attended one of our events. We have to hold them in really nice places, so this was in Napa Valley. But she was able to come and attend and hear from farmers or ranchers about how beef is produced in the United States. And she said, this is all good and well, but I want to see it. I'm not going to believe it until I see it. And so we were able to set it up where she was able to come to a ranch, come to the farm, also go through a packing plant. And in the process, she walked out, and are you guys familiar with Huffington Post? Huffington Post? Yeah. Very influential blog. I think it's probably the most influential blog in the United States. Receives millions of viewers, readers a month. And so she posted a highly positive story in the Huffington Post about her experience in a packing plant. And we were thrilled about this because this is such an influential blog. But she was shocked, absolutely shocked. She was shocked at how safe, all the safety measures, at how humanely the animals were handled. So that was a very positive story that we were able to show. Next up, I know most of you guys have heard me talk about the MBA program. We believe in this program because one of the things that we have learned is that consumers want to hear from people just like them. They want to hear from farmers and ranchers about how we produce beef in the United States. They want to hear about those common values. And I always share a little story on my dad that my dad told me, he called me and goes, well, my niece, your cousin was here, and she said she was no longer eating red meat. And as I'm sure any one of you would have done, he went at it with all the passion in the world for the industry. And you can imagine his words were fairly choice. But he told me later, he goes, Heather, I didn't know how to answer any of the things she was bringing up. She was talking about the environment and hormones and antibiotics. And he goes, I didn't know what to say. I just told her we do it right. And he goes, I don't think that was working. And I said, that's part of the reason this program was created. It's an online training program that equips producers with the information they need to be advocates for the industry. So it talks to you about how to talk about the environment, how to talk about the modern beef production practices that we use. We have 2,800 people that have participated in the program. If you would like to participate in the program, you can go to beef.org/MBA. I'll say that one more time, beef.org/MBA. It will take you a little under 6 hours to do the program. And if you get really aggressive between now and Wednesday, we have a commencement training that will be on campus, not on campus, but will be in Stillwater, and I can give you more information at the end of this program. But Darren Williams will be coming in and helping our people that are participating kind of identify things that they can do that they feel comfortable in communicating. Sometimes it's just an everyday conversation. I want to let you know we also this year launched this program because how many of you guys are on Facebook? Okay, Facebook? Okay. Yeah, I'm finally figuring out that 50, 60-year-old male is probably not going to go on Facebook. Please don't take any offense on that. But the percentage of you guys that are going to do that is probably not very high. My dad has a Facebook page because his 11-year-old granddaughter set it up for him. He doesn't post to it until they post to it. So one of the things we've done this year is we've said, okay, where is the social media people? It's the Oklahoma FFA kids that believe in agriculture. And we want to help them, provide them with the information so they will be long-term advocates for the industry. So we launched a pilot project this year. I think when we're done this year, we'll have about 120 kids, which will almost double the number of people we have that have completed the program in Oklahoma. No, not quite double, but next year we're going to launch it across all the FFA chapters. So we're excited about that because we want to create that next generation of beef advocates for the industry. Last up is exports. Exports have really been the star in our industry. This last year, the Oklahoma Beef Council, I'm checking my time. Am I okay? This last year, the Oklahoma Beef Council, our board of directors are very strategic in their thinking, and they said, look, we've got 1.1% of the U.S. population in Oklahoma. How are we going to make a difference? And so we ended up slashing our in-state program budgets by 50%, which is tough, I can tell you to do. And we reinvested that money in the United States Meat Export Federation. The export markets are adding dollars to your bottom line every day, significant dollars to your bottom line. Also, when we invest with U.S. Meat Export Federation, our dollars are matched 3 and 4 times through government and industry resources. So when we invest $300,000, it becomes $900,000 of beef demand building efforts in the international marketplace. This past year, we blew through $5 billion in sales for the first time ever nationally. I shouldn't say nationally, but internationally blew through the $5 billion mark. We're expected that to increase in 2012. The average per head export value on that, the average per head cattle, was $202 per head. So you can see that export market. The year before in 2010, it was $157. So this export market is significant to us as beef producers. The other thing that it does, it allows us to maximize the carcass value. There's a lot of beef cuts that aren't as popular here in the United States. Think livers. We can't get really good prices for livers in the United States, but if we export them, we can get steak prices. So like, for instance, Russia would be a big center for liver exports. There's a wide variety of cuts that we're able to export and get steak prices rather than ground beef prices for it. Here's just an example. There's 6 beef cuts and 3 variety meats that at about $150 per head. You can look at that chart and you can see like the difference in tongue price if it was sold in the United States be about $150. If you look at it, if we can export it, we can get $650 for it. So that's the importance of that export market to us. Just a little bit, the Korea Free Trade Agreement, which was signed this year, is going to be, we believe, is going to be huge for the beef industry. We expect that over the next 15 years, the Korean beef market to grow to $1 billion for us, $1 billion in exports. What it does is it reduces the duties 40% over the next 15 years. So just think it'd be about our product would be selling into the marketplace against our competitors like Australia and New Zealand, 80 cents a pound cheaper. These are our top export markets in this first period of this year. Mexico continues to be an export market, large export market for us. The Middle East is a rising star for us. We're exporting more beef to the Middle East. We're going to be, Oklahoma Beef Council will specifically be funding programs in the Middle East and Japan this year. Canada is also a major export market, but this just kind of gives you a snapshot of how important those export markets are to us, to our bottom line every single day. So on that note, I appreciate so much your time to be here. If there's anything that we can do, we have a great team of great staff. We have an outstanding group of board of directors that we work for that think very hard about strategically and effectively investing your dollars every day. Thank you. Yes. There was a microbiologist at USDA that coined that term in a memo that was picked up as part of a Freedom of Information, and that's how that term got coined. And I think, after you get past, I don't know, boss at one time told me, he goes, Heather, we are always the calm, cool, and collected ones. This has been tough to be calm, cool, and collected on because it's just wrong. But if you wait for about a week and get past your frustration and really put your head in the mind of the consumer, And you think about being a mom sitting in, I don't know, New Jersey, and she hears they're putting some product called pink slime with ammonia in her children's lunch program. It's really hard after that happens to go back and say, okay, but let us explain, it's a small puff of gas. It's in cheeses and chocolates. It makes hard, once that rush, this started, it was very hard to stop. Thank you.